Hello, people. Andrew here, talking about comics from a reader, collector, speculator, investor point of view, in that order of importance to myself. Today I'm back to the Fantastic Four, Volume 5, which ran from the years 2014 to 2015, included 18 regular issues and one annual. It was written by James Robinson and illustrated by Leonard Kirk. So what's it about? And I'm telling you, there's going to be spoilers here. So if you want to go into it knowing nothing, which is what I did when I originally read it, stop now and go somewhere else, read it, and maybe come back. I don't know. But I'll tell you, what's it about? Okay, so Fantastic Four are having a bad day. All of the members are going to suffer through something in the upcoming issues. Actually, number one starts off with the happy environment to show you how happy they are, and then it branches off into everything falling apart. And the reason it's falling apart is because there is somebody manipulating events to break the Fantastic Four, specifically Reed Richards. He wants to break Reed Richards. He wants to break him in spirit and soul. And part of that breaking would be to destroy and break the spirits of all the other members of the Fantastic Four. Take one of these things that is specifically Reed Richards oriented, which is his family and his team, and break that. And on the way, the whole idea is to break Reed's spirit and soul. That's the premise of the entire run. So is it worth the read? There's things to discuss about the series itself. Number one is it does break it down into various blocks and says this is a 5 issue block and then this is another 6 and this is a 4 or whatever it is, but it's not. It's really one full 19 issue story. The annual, which is very much a part of the story, events that happen within the annual have a direct effect as what happens to the regular book itself. So it is just one complete story, and it is, as I say, about the breaking down of Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four. It reminded me a lot of the Born Again story in Daredevil, where the Kingpin discovers Daredevil's secret identity and goes about destroying the man, like financially, through reputation, through contacts, through friends. Gets him barred, everything that can possibly go wrong to break Matt Murdock, Daredevil. There's a similarity here, not in necessarily in tone, but in sort of the structure, the idea behind it, that somebody wants to break Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four. One of the differences right away is that the Daredevil was very grounded. All of the things that happened pretty much could happen even without Daredevil's powers. They weren't really essential. In fact, the Kingpin doesn't have powers. He just has some ideas as to what to do and the way to manipulate people. So in this one, there's a little bit more of the fantastical, but what do you expect from a book that's called The Fantastic Four? So that was fine. That there's this fantastical element to this breakdown, but for the most part, it's a pretty solid, story of the breakdown of Reed Richards and the attempts and the way that this is executed. Um, Briefly, I'm going to talk about the art now. I know I'm sort of going all over, but Leonard Kirk, I hadn't heard of Leonard Kirk, and actually I haven't heard of James Robinson prior to this. So I haven't heard of Leonard Kirk, who is the artist. He's very, very good. He has a realistic interpretation of characters. He's got a good idea of composition, perspective, shadow, and light. Some of the panels can be very dynamic. There's a lot of detail where detail is necessary. It flows really well. It complements the story. It's as much a part of the story as the story itself. I don't. When I look at his work, I wouldn't be able to necessarily pull it out of a lineup. There are some artists that have a distinct little bit of character to their illustrations. Gil Kane, Paul Galassi. There's a number of them. I don't see that in Kirk's material. That doesn't mean that it's any lesser. It's just I don't see that little extra moment in his artwork. But I really did enjoy all of the artwork, and as I say, very well complements the book itself. The story itself by James Robinson, as I say, it is a 19-part story, and I did enjoy it. There were times that I was just like, I'm not so sure, but again, it's accepting the fantastical in this breakdown. And I did enjoy the story itself. I like the idea that we're dealing with a villain who does want to, bring about the end of Reed Richards, and isn't solely concentrated on I'm going to wipe you people off the face of the earth, like physically, just I want you all dead type of thing. It's very subtle. I want to I want to break you and break your reputation. I want the world to hate you by the end of this time, so that there's nothing left of you. Any statues or any monuments to you will be torn down because they will all hate you. So that kind of villain I found to be very interesting and very different than what we've seen in the past with some of the other villains. I guess there's a little bit of like the Mad Thinker from the Ultimate Fantastic Four had a little bit of that characteristic, except she was really mad. This one is much more devious. Has set up a very years to put this thing into motion. So yeah, is he slightly mad? Well, he's mad because he's angry at Reed Richards, but I don't know that he's particularly crazy. I mean, so it was a good story. I like the story. I like the breakdown, and I like the events that unfolded, and I like the characters. One of the other things that I really liked about it was the characterization of some in unexpected spots, unexpected moments of genuine emotion and humanity. Saw some of that with Doctor Doom, and when his time with Valeria. Saw it with Wizard and his time with his clone son Bentley, and with Sharon Ventura, the She Thing, had a moment as well, and I liked all of those moments, and I liked the characterization of the not just the main group, but also all of the extras that were around them. Some of these small time, unexpected little bits of humanity and emotion that really did bring more heart to the story itself. A very good story, very good use of that. So is it recommended? If you're a Fantastic Four reader like myself, then yes, it is definitely a recommended read. And also for myself, there's no time travel. There's no real exploration happening here. There's no major villains. I mean, other villains do show up from time to time, but they're all part of the bigger plan. So it was really focused on the characters, what makes them the Fantastic Four, and what it takes to break them. So I really enjoyed all of that, and the little bits and pieces of humanity were an excellent touch. So if you're a Fantastic Four fan and you know some of the history, and it does reference it sometimes in a couple of little flashback scenes or whatever. So if you know the Fantastic Four and you know some of the history, then it's definitely a good read. Now, if you were coming into this for the first time and you hadn't read anything about the Fantastic Four, and this is where you decided to start, I don't know that this would be a good place to start. You're talking about the breakdown of the team rather than the buildup of the team. You don't necessarily see these characters at their worst. I mean, sometimes you're seeing them at their best, but they're not working together as a family. It really hinges a great deal on your knowing what's happened in the past. I'm just going to go through some of these covers while I'm talking. So you could read it as your first time and watch as the team breaks down, and that might be an interesting read. I couldn't say because I have read so much of the Fantastic Four. I just don't think that would be necessarily the best place to start. Now, if you're totally you know nothing at all about the Fantastic Four and you just want a good story, and if it's a superhero story, that's fine. It may work on that level because it is well written and it is well illustrated. So you could watch how this unfolds, how this breakdown unfolds. But I think it's best if you're a fan of the Fantastic Four and you know of them and you've read them, so that this will have far more impact. And so for me, I recommend it if you're a Fantastic Four reader. You're on your own if you're not a Fantastic Four reader. As far as collectibles, there are some other elements in here. For example, this one is part of the it's a tie-in with our Original Sin. I think I'm gonna sneeze. Pardon me. So it is. There's a tie-in with the Original Sin. You might want to collect it as part of that particular line of stories. The tie is not strong. It's but it's there if you, as I say, if you want to collect everything that had the Original Sin. There are some other characters that drop by. The most surprising is near the end of the run. Sleepwalker pops in, and of all collectibles, I would think he would be the one character that you might want to that people would be collecting, because he hasn't showed up in a lot of books. So his appearance is unexpected, and it's one of the few appearances that you get a Sleepwalker. Thunder does show up in the last couple of issues. I think in the penultimate issue, there's just like a one panel of it, and even in the final issue, she's only there for a panel or two. But there's another character that you don't see around an awful lot, making an appearance. As far as the speculation and investment is concerned, I would say no. All of these books I picked up in the dollar bin. Pretty much at one place. I pretty much got the entire run. So I would not necessarily say that anything here is either for speculation or for investment. If you're buying this book, the whole series, you're buying it to read it, and because you're a Fantastic Four fan. As I say, there are a few guest stars here and there. You got Spider-Man shows, and I mean, because that's another thing that I did like about it, is that the superhero community, as it is sometimes they're a little bit off, but most of the time they're there to help out the Fantastic Four, and that part of the community is built on and developed. This is good back and blue. I didn't mind the red costumes. I didn't think they were great, but they do costume changes from time to time. There were the white costumes for the Future Foundation, because they weren't quite the Fantastic Four, but I do prefer the blue, the back and blue. And as I say, this is part of a run of a block of stories called Back in Blue, but really it's just part of the whole story. So it was a weird set of numbering too, right? It goes from 1 to 14, and then it breaks off from issue 642 to 645. Legacy numbering. I'm not sure exactly why they did that, because 645 isn't like an anniversary issue or anything like that. It just seems rather odd that they would jump from issue number 14 to issue number 642. And it could be that by the end of this particular run, at 645, the Fantastic Four go on hiatus for about 3 years. There are no Fantastic Four books, and this is due to a contract dispute with Fox, who had the rights to their films, and there was a disagreement between Marvel and Fox. I don't know exactly what the disagreement was, but rather than try and promote the Fantastic Four, Marvel decided that they just weren't going to release any more Fantastic Four books, so you don't get that support. Now, Tom Brefer went on record to say, well, part of it is the finances. The book was not selling well, so that's why we canceled it. Well, that doesn't explain why you would remove it from all of your posters and your trading cards. And According to one staffer at Marvel, remove all posters or indications of the Fantastic Four within the building itself, which doesn't make sense because Fantastic Four was the book that started Marvel. So it's not a financial thing. It's because there was contract disputes between Fox and Marvel that were eventually settled by 2018 when we get to see the next issue. This is a variant copy, and there's a number of variant copies throughout here. I mean, we're into the variant age where there's variant copies for almost everything. And again, I bought it for $1 in the dollar bin. So there's nothing here to say that uh, that's going to be speculative or investment worthy. As I said, I bought most of it or all of it in the dollar bin, and I imagine it's still there. Over time, it's probably going to move into the $3 to $5 bin, but I don't see anything happening there. This was the final issue. Actually, it was a very good issue, because the wrap up was good. Um, sometimes writers have a problem sticking the landing. Has often been mentioned, is that writers start far more stories than they finish. So the beginnings tend to be really good, but the endings not so much. It was a good ending. It was a good ending to the story. I enjoyed the ending. But one of the things I liked about this particular issue as well is that there were some extras at the end, including about 15 to 20 different creatives that worked on Fantastic Four through the years had an opportunity to talk about what their favorite cover was. And so there was a bunch of covers and a bunch of comments about what these covers are. And some people they reflect back when they first saw it, or they talk about the composition or whatever. So it's an interesting little piece by these various creatives that had worked on Fantastic Four. There's also 4 individual stories to focus on the 4 members of the Fantastic Four after the events and where they are. And I think all 4 of them were good stories, and they're only about 4 or 5 pages long. I think the Reed and Valeria story was the best of the bunch, art-wise as well as story. So, but they were all good. So there was everything good about the final issue. And then this was the annual that featured Doom, Valeria, and Sue Richards, the Invisible Woman. So yeah, ultimately the recommendation, if you're a Fantastic Four fan or a reader of the Fantastic Four, this was a good series. It's a good series to read. It is a solid chunk. It's not something that you necessarily want to pick out a single issue here or a single issue there. It is probably read best as one full story. If you're not a reader of the Fantastic Four, or you're new to the Fantastic Four, as I say, you're on your own. I don't think it works as best for that, but it was well written and well illustrated, with touches of humanity and character development that you might find interesting. So that'll be up to you. Well, that's it for me, and for Fantastic Four Volume 5. As I say, 3-year hiatus. I'm not going to wait that long before I talk about Volume 6, but there was a 3-year hiatus between this one and the next volume. And next time we talk about Fantastic Four, we'll talk about that volume. All right. That's it for me. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. We'll see you again soon.